Okay. So I think we're live now.
Okay, great. Good evening. This will begin the deliberations for the May 13th Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Here, zoning board members will deliberate cases and make a decision. We'll get started with case number 1, which was 280 Klein Street. I'll turn it over to the board to start having a conversation and we'll go from there.
Okay, so our friend with the radio ham tower, I think he addressed some of the concerns that we had. Did anybody have any additional comment from any of the testimony he presented? Mainly was pretty much what he wrote to adjust to what we suggested last month. So anything else, any thoughts?
I mean, he's just pretty much bringing it down to size, right? And kind of tucking it behind the house.
Yeah, and then he mentioned the base, he's gonna put it on the concrete base.
So the thought here, the conversation here is about whether or not he met the standards for mitigating any potential negative impacts by tucking it up behind the house, making it, the pad, I guess itself will be smaller based on what he said that it goes on, but trying to mitigate any potential negative impacts by putting it behind the house. So it essentially, I guess, would not be visible from the right of way. Potentially, obviously, neighbors on either side might see it.
I think he did. I think he did everything that we asked him to and addressed the concerns that we had last time.
Do people feel he met the standard? I want to go through the standards so when we go to a vote, we have enough to back it up. So the first one, the benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood. So obviously the benefits I think are pretty clear. He outlined all of the network of people he speaks with all the time. Does that outweigh the detriment?
I think the new plan does.
The modification.
Modification from the original, yeah. At least for me, it does.
Other board members?
So what height are we talking about? The height of the chimney or 25 feet?
Or high as the house?
That's my point. He did say that, as I suspected last month, that the insulation on the roof would not impact the direction of what he receives or what he transmits. I'm willing to go for the height of the house myself.
Okay. So let's run with height of the house. Will the proposed use produce an undesirable change in the character of the area, neighborhood, or be a detriment to nearby properties with the new version?
No, tucked away in the rear of the home.
Okay. Any feasible alternative, and keep in mind the feasible alternative can be bringing it down to the house height.
Yeah. And I think it mentioned we had discussed getting a tower that was more expensive that you could take down and adjust heights, but that obviously would have been.
That's right. That's right.
Like $10,000 or something.
It was cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
Is the modified requested variance substantial?
No.
Any adverse impacts based on the new configuration?
Well, it was better than the original proposal to me.
Yeah, so keep in mind he started at 40. And we tried to get him down. I said, you got to reduce it a little. It would be in your best interest to reduce it. So we got down to 30. And then now we're talking about the house height. So, and of course, not self-created. I guess everything is pretty much self-created, but the benefits to the applicant can outweigh the fact that it's self-created. So I have a set of standards that board members feel the applicant has met. If there are board members that feel that the standards are not met, let's certainly talk about that. Otherwise, we can go to a vote.
No, I think we're good. I'll make a motion to grant.
And to be clear, the motion is for the height of the house in the rear.
Correct.
I'll second it.
All right, and we'll go through in alphabetical order. Jim,
Grant,
Tyrese,
Grant.
David,
Grant.
Lorene,
Grant, Grant,
thank you. Cora
Grant.
and Holly.
Grant,
All right, so the motion passes 6-0. All right, and no case number 2, 951 Park Avenue, which brings us to case 3, 235 North Winton Road. I'll turn it over to the board for conversation, and then we can talk about the standards.
Was there any questions about this? Any additional comments? Folks, I think folks felt it very favorable. They did a pretty good job on this one. So any other comments on that?
I think they did a really good job answering all of my questions and everybody's questions and the concerns. They addressed, a lot of the call-in or write-in concerns.
I think, yeah, this project isn't going to create new traffic. It's just moving around existing traffic that's already there. Traffic doesn't work that way, but I get it. I get where people don't get that. Yeah, and they did a good job mitigating that drive-through as well. I'm fine with the standards that the applicant has presented in the application. If everybody else says, I'll make a motion to grant and accept the standards presented.
Let me run through. I want to just run through them here a little bit. So I want to focus first on the use variance, and then we can talk about the area variance. So yes, the applicant outlined, put together a pretty comprehensive letter about, so the first one, no reasonable return. So you're starting with vacant land. So obviously you're not converting an existing building, you're starting new. So is the subject property capable of yielding a reasonable rate of return for a permitted use in the district? And it sounds like the board is saying, no, this needs to happen.
Do you all have in front of you the statement of hardship statement for the use variance? You have that in the packet.
Yep.
Probably be helpful if you just kind of look at that as we're going through these. So to
Yeah.
confirm that you agree with the statements that were made by the applicant there.
Yeah, so just we can run through what the applicant said and confirm that, as Johanna said.
well, I did see a problem on annual expenses item C. The average annual interest over the next 5 years, they got down $400,000. But I think that's actually all 5 years added together based upon the size of the loan. However, there's no income, period. So I just say, if this became housing, I came up with some kind of a figure, which I don't have marked down here. And I still say that they would be losing with what's approved or what could be approved there right now.
Okay. On page 4 of the applicant's addendum is number 2, the unique circumstance. So the alleged hardship related to the property is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. And there's a paragraph in there that the applicant submitted. They outline a little bit about the history. Any additional comments on that, or that information is sufficient to meeting the standard?
Just to me.
Yep.
The applicant answered the self-created hardship on page 5 of their addendum, number 4 there. Talks about arising from a unique history and also the physical conditions of the property. They talked a little bit about how it wraps around a gas station. So obviously it's not a ideal corner parcel.
Mhm.
The essential character of the area, I think you heard a lot of testimony about things that were done to mitigate. And as Tyrese mentioned, they kind of tucked the drive-through along that western boundary against the industrial, mitigating aesthetics and focusing the streetscape on North Winton.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional comments on that, or what's in here is sufficient? And then the last standard, can the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by a feasible alternative? So this means that the applicant has demonstrated that there is no alternative to this requested variance. You guys are so quiet tonight.
Weird.
It was a great presentation.
It was a great
Okay.
presentation, Matt.
Good.
Really, these
Good.
standards they
Yeah.
presented are pretty straightforward. I think.
Any, good to hear. Any questions on the area variances that are outlined, or did the testimony and the application serve to answer meeting those?
They did a great job with them. I was a little bit confused when I read everything, but then their presentation I thought was really specific and clear.
And the description, your question, Holly, I think was great about the traffic.
Yeah.
When you think about it from an east-west travel, people coming into the city will be making a
Yeah.
right turn and leaving in a right
Yeah,
turn.
that was very helpful.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, it shows the thought process of how the site design was laid out.
Yeah.
Okay.
You probably should go through each of these variances separately, Matt.
Okay. So the first area variance is the front yard setback for building A, which is the Starbucks entrance. So the proposed front yard setback from Blossom Road varies between 46 and 56 feet. The code requires 0 to 5. So what's the benefit to the applicant of that setback?
Well, that's where the patio and the walk-up window are, right?
Correct. And where the traffic comes in and the cars turn to go around.
Around.
Yeah.
Okay. And does granting of the variance to allow those things offer any detriments, or have those been mitigated?
No, I think it's just the opposite. It makes it a safer exit.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And then I'm going to focus on the Starbucks building as a whole for this standard. So the transparency and then the 2 parking spaces. So the 3 that we're looking at in this building are the front yard setback, the transparency, and the parking spaces. Character of the area, will any of those variances for the essential character of the area, will they produce an undesirable change in the character of the area? So these are things like comparing it to the Blossom Road frontage. So what's the existing street frontage with regard to what's there and pushing the building back? Is that going to alter the character at all?
What are we looking at? Like CVS, like that side?
Correct. CVS, the industrial building next door.
Yeah.
Right, there's things that are not built up to the sidewalk in there. There's a gas station.
The gas station.
No,
They focus the attention on the street that has the built up buildings.
Mhm.
Did the applicant meet the standard then that there's no other remedy to this? So based on like the DOT comments, lining it up with the CVS.
I think so.
The physical, so is the requested variance substantial based on this information?
Yeah.
Any adverse impacts, or,
No.
and if so, what are they or how they've been addressed?
I think they've been addressed.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Let's talk about the sizes of the building. So the the building B and the building C they exceed the 3,000 square foot. One is just over 4,000 and the other are in the 3,000 range, where 3,000 is allowed.
Frankly, I think they fit in quite nicely.
Okay, so part of the story here is that the surrounding uses are already larger than what's permitted. You've got the CVS pharmacy. You've got, I think the application talked about the Aldi grocery store. Some of the larger uses. So
I think it creates a little more opportunity for what can. go
Well, that
in.
also addresses some of the public impact, right? Or some of the public comment, excuse me, where people want to see local businesses. Well, it provides the space for that
Right.
as well.
Yeah, I agree. It'll diversify it a little.
And then the other one is the last one is the transparency along North Winton Road. This is where the applicant discussed the floor plan layout of needing to have windows in certain places with the well now. So they're proposing 58% where 78% is required. Did the applicant meet those standards for why they can't get to 70%?
I think based on the use, the applicant, it definitely is a benefit.
Okay. And they talked a little bit about like it being medical supply, pharmaceutical things, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about traffic, which the we heard public input on. We talked about the ability to provide space for local places in that northern building, and then mitigating the location of the drive-through as the best possible location on the parcel. So,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Johanna, do you want to discuss anything further?
Nope, I think unless the board members have any other observations
other
about the testimony, if you want to, any.
No, we're good. We're ready to vote. We're good. We're ready to vote.
And so, do we need to do the use and area separate?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Okay, so
Vote on those
let's start with the
separately.
use. So we're gonna start, the motion that would be made is for the use variance for the drive-through.
Yep. So I'll make a motion to grant.
Second,
Now go through in alphabetical order. Jim,
Grant.
Tyrese,
Grant.
David,
grant,
Lorene,
Grant.
Cora,
Grant,
and Holly.
Grant.
Okay, so the drive-through motion carries 6-0. The second motion is going to be with regard to the series of area variances for building A, building B, and building C. If there's no need to break them out, I'm proposing we do it as one. If there's no need to make any modifications to any of them, if board members have no concerns with that.
So I'll make a motion to grant.
second,
And I'm gonna go the other direction this time. Holly,
Grant.
Cora,
Grant,
Lorene,
Grant.
David,
grant,
Tyrese,
Grant.
and Jim.
Grant.
Okay, so the area variances for buildings A, B, and C, motion carries 6-0. So that closes tonight's deliberations. Thank you everyone for joining us.